Hello everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. We're excited to have you here. In today's video, we're going to explore one of the most powerful and misunderstood growth opportunities in modern B2B marketing, and that is how to build thought leadership on LinkedIn as a founder or SaaS team in 2026. If you are building a SaaS company, leading demand generation, managing a sales team, or trying to create more authority without increasing your advertising budget every quarter, this topic can completely change the way you think about LinkedIn. In this video, we'll break down why people often outperform company pages, how founder-led content becomes a genuine growth engine, how to balance authority, personal, and product content, how to influence buyers who are not ready to book a demo, and how to help your team post consistently without turning every update into corporate messaging. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's video. Imagine two SaaS companies entering the same market. Both have strong products. Both have capable marketing teams. Both publish articles, run webinars, and maintain polished company pages. Their logos appear in the same feeds, and they compete for the same buyers. But one company mostly speaks through its brand account. The posts are carefully approved, professionally designed, and completely safe. They explain product updates, announce events, celebrate milestones, and repeat the company's positioning. The second company also has a company page, but its founders, marketers, engineers, and customer-facing leaders share what they are learning in public. They explain mistakes, they challenge common assumptions, they describe what customers keep getting wrong, they show how the team makes decisions, they connect business trends to real operating experience. A year later, the second company may have created far more than engagement. Its people have become familiar to the market. Prospects recognize the founder before the first sales conversation. Buyers have already seen the team explain difficult problems. Sales representatives enter calls with more context. Customers share posts because the ideas are useful, not because someone asked them to promote the brand. At first glance, it may look like the second company simply has better social media execution. But the deeper difference is that one company treated LinkedIn as a publishing channel, while the other treated it as a trust-building system. That distinction matters because B2B buying decisions are becoming harder to influence through traditional marketing alone. Buyers research independently. Buying groups become involved earlier. Finance, legal, procurement, operations, and security may influence a purchase even when they never speak with the vendor's salesperson. And many of these people are not responding to a generic product announcement. They are trying to decide whether the company behind the product understands their world. This is where thought leadership becomes valuable. Not thought leadership as a collection of vague opinions, motivational phrases, or recycled industry statistics. Real thought leadership means helping people see a familiar problem more clearly. It means giving buyers language they can use internally. It means offering a point of view that is specific enough to be useful and grounded enough to be trusted. And that leads us to the first strategy. The first strategy is to understand why founder-led LinkedIn content can become a growth engine. For years, many B2B companies assumed the company page was the safest place to build authority. That seems logical. The company owns the page. The branding is consistent. The marketing team can approve every word. The content can be connected directly to products and campaigns. But LinkedIn is not only a database of businesses, it is a network of people. Conversations begin with people. Opinions are shared by people, and professional trust is usually attached to a person before it is attached to a logo. A company page can tell the market what the business offers. A founder can explain why the business exists, what the team has learned, and how the company thinks about the problem. Those are different forms of communication. LinkedIn itself has reported that employees average more connections than their company has followers, and that 4 out of 5 LinkedIn members influence business decisions. The practical implication is not that every employee should become an advertisement. It is that the people inside the company may have a much wider and more relevant network than the brand account alone. Independent research points in the same direction. Metrical's 2026 LinkedIn study analyzed more than 673,000 posts from over 63,000 accounts, and found that personal profiles generated a 63% higher engagement rate on average than company pages. The same study also found that personal profiles generated more comments while company pages were more likely to generate shares. That is an important distinction. People may create more conversation, while company pages may still be useful for distribution, credibility, and official information. So the lesson is not that company pages are useless. The lesson is that the founder and the company page perform different jobs. The company page is the official library. The founder profile is the human doorway. The company page can organize product updates, hiring information, customer stories, events, and core resources. The founder can create context, perspective, tension, and trust around those ideas. This is also why the popular claim that founder content automatically produces 10 times the reach of a company page should be treated carefully. The exact multiple depends on the account, industry, audience, content quality, and measurement method. What the evidence supports more consistently is a qualitative advantage for personal profiles, and Metrical's 2026 data gives one measured example: substantially higher average engagement for personal profiles than company pages. The founder-led engine begins when the founder stops asking, "What should I post about our company?" and starts asking, "What have I learned that could help the people we want to serve?" That might be a lesson from a failed launch. It might be a difficult pricing decision. It might be an unexpected customer objection. It might be an industry assumption the founder no longer believes. It might be a practical explanation of how the company handles a problem that other businesses only discuss at a theoretical level. The product is still present, but it is no longer forced into every sentence. The experience comes first. The brand becomes associated with useful thinking, not simply repeated promotion. The second strategy is to define a point of view before you define a posting schedule. A lot of LinkedIn strategies begin with frequency. Post 3 times a week. Use a carousel on Tuesday. Share a customer story on Thursday. Add a poll on Friday. These recommendations can be useful, but they do not solve the more important problem. What does your company actually believe about the market? Without a point of view, consistent posting simply produces consistent sameness. A founder may publish content about productivity, leadership, AI, hiring, sales, customer success, and entrepreneurship. All of those topics can be interesting, but if they are not connected by a clear perspective, the audience may remember the individual posts without understanding what the founder stands for. Your point of view does not need to be controversial for the sake of attention. It needs to be clear enough to create recognition. Perhaps you believe SaaS companies should focus less on feature volume and more on time to value. Perhaps you believe B2B marketing is measuring the wrong stage of the funnel. Perhaps you believe most AI adoption projects fail because teams automate unclear processes. Perhaps you believe customer success should be involved before the sale rather than after it. Those beliefs become the foundation of thought leadership because they allow you to connect different stories to one consistent idea. Edelman and LinkedIn's 2025 B2B Thought Leadership Impact Report makes the business case for this kind of work. The report drew on insights from nearly 2,000 global professionals and found that more than 40% of B2B deals stall because of internal misalignment within buying groups. That means the person your salesperson speaks with may not be the only person deciding whether the purchase moves forward. The same research found that 56% of target buyers and 55% of hidden buyers use thought leadership as part of their vendor evaluation process. Hidden buyers can include finance, operations, legal, procurement, compliance, or other stakeholders who may not be active users of the product, but can still approve, delay, or block the purchase. A clear point of view helps these people understand the category before the sales process reaches them. It gives an internal champion something more useful than a feature list to share with colleagues. It helps the buying group discuss the problem using language your company has already introduced. That is the difference between content that receives attention and content that creates alignment. The third strategy is to build the 3-pillar content system. The first pillar is authority content. The second is personal content. The third is product content. Strong LinkedIn strategies usually need all 3, but they should not feel identical because they solve different problems. Authority content explains how you understand the market. It can challenge a common assumption, interpret a trend, explain a change in buyer behavior, or offer a useful framework. The purpose is not to prove that the company is smart. The purpose is to help the audience make better decisions. For example, instead of writing that AI is transforming customer support, an authority post could explain why many support teams are automating the wrong part of the workflow. It might show that the real bottleneck is not response speed, but incomplete customer context. That gives the reader a sharper way to think about the issue. Personal content shows the human experience behind the expertise. This does not mean sharing every private detail or turning LinkedIn into a personal diary. It means revealing the decisions, tensions, and lessons that make the business understandable. A founder might explain why the team changed its onboarding process after losing customers. A product leader might describe a feature that looked valuable in research but created confusion in practice. A sales leader might share the objection that changed the company's positioning. A marketer might explain what the team stopped doing after realizing that traffic was not creating pipeline. Personal content works because it adds evidence to the authority content. Anyone can repeat a business principle. Fewer people can show how that principle affected a real decision. Product content solves a specific problem and makes the company's expertise actionable. It can explain how a workflow operates, how to evaluate competing approaches, how to avoid an implementation mistake, or how a customer achieved a measurable result. Product content should not be treated as an apology. Buyers need to understand what you sell. The problem is not product content. The problem is product content without context. A post that simply lists features asks the reader to care about the product. A post that explains how a team solved a difficult problem using the product gives the reader a reason to care about the problem first. The three pillars work together. Authority creates relevance, personal content creates trust, product content creates a path toward action. If you publish only authority posts, people may respect your thinking but never understand how your company can help. If you publish only personal posts, people may enjoy following you, but fail to connect your experience to a business solution. If you publish only product posts, the feed begins to feel like a catalogue. The balance does not need to follow a rigid percentage. The right mix depends on your audience and growth stage, but the content should move naturally between what you believe, what you have experienced, and how those lessons can help a buyer solve a real problem. And this is where the next strategy becomes important. The fourth strategy is to create content for the shadow funnel. Most marketing teams are trained to think about visible actions. A person downloads a guide, someone registers for a webinar, a visitor submits a form, a prospect books a meeting. These actions are important because they are measurable. But B2B buying often begins much earlier and much more quietly. Someone may read your posts for 6 months without liking or commenting. A finance leader may follow a founder because one explanation helped them understand a technology category. A sales manager may save several posts and share them privately with a colleague. A potential buyer may watch your team explain a problem without ever visiting the website. These people are not inactive. They are simply invisible to many standard reports. This is the shadow funnel, the part of the buying journey where people learn, compare, form opinions, and decide whether your company deserves consideration before they identify themselves as leads. The 2025 Edelman and LinkedIn research shows why this matters. The report found that 64% of target buyers and 63% of hidden buyers spend more than an hour per week consuming thought leadership. It also found that 41% of target buyers and 35% of hidden buyers said a C-suite executive had encouraged them to consider a vendor after engaging with that vendor's thought leadership. That is a powerful result because the content may influence people who never filled out a form. It can help a hidden buyer become an advocate. It can give a senior executive a reason to ask the team to investigate an unfamiliar vendor. It can reduce the risk of entering a sales conversation with a company nobody knows. The shadow funnel is not a replacement for lead generation. It is what happens before lead generation becomes visible. To build it, you need to create content that answers questions buyers may not yet be ready to ask a salesperson. What changes in this market over the next 2 years? What mistakes do companies make when adopting this category? Which problem does this product solve, and which problem does it not solve? How should a buying team evaluate competing options? What will implementation require from finance, operations, security, or IT? These posts may not generate immediate demo requests, but they can create familiarity and internal confidence. When the buyer finally enters an active project, your company is no longer starting from zero. The fifth strategy is to write posts that teach rather than perform expertise. There is a difference between sounding intelligent and being useful. LinkedIn makes it easy to create the appearance of insight. You can use dramatic openings, short lines, bold claims, and confident conclusions. These formats may attract attention, but attention disappears quickly if the post does not give the reader something to use. A useful thought leadership post usually contains a clear tension. It explains the problem as the audience experiences it. It offers a new interpretation. It supports that interpretation with an example, observation, or piece of evidence. Then it gives the reader a practical implication. Consider the difference between these two ideas. The future of B2B sales is changing. That statement is broad enough to be difficult to disagree with, and too broad to be useful. A stronger idea might be, many SaaS teams do not have a lead problem. They have a timing problem. They are asking for a sales meeting before buyers understand why the problem deserves attention. The second idea creates a conversation. It gives the audience something to test against their own experience. It also creates a natural bridge to a longer explanation, a customer story, or a product workflow. This does not mean every post needs to be provocative. It means every post should have a reason to exist beyond filling the calendar. You can also use data carefully. Statistics should clarify the argument, not decorate it. If you mention that personal profiles generated higher engagement than company pages, identify the study and explain what the finding actually means. Do not turn one benchmark into a universal promise. Metrical's data is useful, but it is based on the accounts and posts included in its study. The results should inform your strategy, not replace testing. The same principle applies to buyer research. B2B buyers are increasingly doing more of the early journey independently, comparing options, educating themselves, and building internal confidence before they speak with a vendor. That does not mean buyers never want sales support. It means they want to enter the conversation with better questions and more control. Thought leadership can serve that independent journey by helping buyers build understanding before they need a conversation. The sixth strategy is to turn the founder story into evidence, not theatre. Founder-led content can become powerful, but it can also become performative. Some posts describe a dramatic lesson without explaining what changed. Others present ordinary business events as if they were historic breakthroughs. The audience may applaud the post, but applause is not the same as credibility. The best founder stories include a real decision and a real consequence. What did you believe before? What happened that challenged the belief? What did you change? What would you do differently now? How can another founder or operator use that lesson? For example, saying, "We learned that customer feedback is important," is too general. A stronger story might explain that the company built a roadmap from feature requests, discovered that the loudest customers were not representative of the broader market, and then changed its process to combine customer interviews with usage data and retention patterns. That kind of story demonstrates judgment. It does not need a perfect ending. In fact, a limitation often makes it more believable. Perhaps the new process reduced one problem but created another. Perhaps the decision worked for one customer segment and failed for another. Those details show the audience that the founder is not presenting a motivational slogan. They are sharing an operating lesson. Personal does not mean unfiltered. It means specific, relevant, and connected to a real experience. You should also avoid turning every founder story into a disguised recruitment post or product announcement. If the audience can predict the final sentence from the first line, the story is probably doing too much promotional work. The founder's role is to make the company's thinking visible. The product can enter later when it is genuinely connected to the lesson. The seventh strategy is to connect LinkedIn content to a buyer journey without making the feed feel like a funnel. A predictable sales channel does not mean that every post should contain a call to action. In fact, constant calls to action can weaken the very trust that makes founder-led marketing work. Instead, think in terms of a sequence. A person may first encounter an authority post that helps them name a problem. Later, they see a personal post showing that the founder has faced the problem directly. Then they encounter a product post explaining one practical solution. After that, they may read a customer story, visit the website, or ask a question in a direct message. The content creates progression without demanding progression from the viewer. This is especially important for complex SaaS products. A buyer may need to understand the category before comparing vendors. They may need to convince a manager before booking a meeting. They may need to reassure finance or security before the team can test the product. LinkedIn content can support each stage. Early posts create understanding. Middle stage posts create confidence. Later posts reduce implementation risk and explain what action looks like. The mistake is to measure every post by the same outcome. A broad authority post may be successful if it reaches people who have never heard of the category. A personal story may be successful if it creates meaningful comments from potential buyers. A product post may be successful if it drives fewer but more qualified conversations. Instead of asking only which post received the most reactions, ask which posts are creating the right kind of movement. Are people returning to the founder's profile? Are sales calls referencing the ideas? Are employees sharing the content with relevant prospects? Are buyers arriving with better questions? Are branded searches, direct visits, and qualified conversations increasing over time? These signals may not be perfectly attributed, but together they show whether LinkedIn is influencing the market. The eighth strategy is to activate the team without creating a corporate posting machine. Many companies announce an employee advocacy program and immediately make it feel like another administrative task. Marketing prepares a folder of approved posts. Employees receive reminders. Managers ask for participation. A few people share the content once and then the program quietly disappears. The problem is usually not that employees lack ideas. It is that the system removes their voice. People do not want to publish a message that sounds like it was written by a committee. They also may not know what is safe to share, how much time posting requires, or how their personal reputation benefits from participating. Team activation should begin with permission, not pressure. Employees need clear guidance about confidentiality, customer privacy, legal restrictions, and brand risks. But within those boundaries, they should be encouraged to explain what they actually know. A customer success manager can share a lesson about onboarding friction. An engineer can explain a technical trade-off. A salesperson can describe a misconception buyers bring into evaluation. A marketer can share what changed after the team stopped optimizing for vanity metrics. A product manager can explain how the company decides which requests belong on the roadmap. These posts are more credible because they come from experience. They also create a richer picture of the company than a single founder profile can provide. LinkedIn's own employee advocacy guidance describes the benefits in terms of reach, credibility, lead generation, and cost efficiency. But the strongest programs do not begin with, "Please share this link." They begin with, "What are you learning that customers or peers might find useful?" The company can make participation easier by creating an editorial rhythm. Hold a short monthly conversation where team members bring questions they heard from customers. Turn those questions into possible post ideas. Offer examples of strong structures, but do not write every word for them. Provide a review option for sensitive topics without requiring approval for ordinary expertise. You can also create a shared bank of experiences instead of a bank of finished posts. Store customer questions, implementation lessons, product decisions, market observations, and useful examples. Employees can draw from that material in their own voice. Most importantly, do not require everyone to post at the same frequency. Some people may publish weekly. Others may comment, share expertise privately with sales, or contribute ideas to the founder's content. Participation can take different forms. The goal is not to turn employees into influencers. The goal is to make the company's real knowledge easier for the market to discover. The ninth strategy is to make consistency easier than avoidance. The biggest challenge with LinkedIn is rarely a lack of content ideas. It is the friction between having an idea and publishing it. Founders are busy, sales teams are moving between calls, engineers have deadlines, marketers are managing campaigns. Everyone believes they should post, but nobody has a simple operating system. A practical system can begin with one weekly market conversation. What did a customer ask? What surprised the team? What decision created disagreement? What assumption changed? What result was different from the forecast? From that conversation, create one authority idea, one personal story, and one product application. The authority post explains the broader lesson. The personal post shows how the lesson emerged. The product post demonstrates how a buyer could apply it. This does not mean publishing the same message 3 times. It means using one genuine insight as the source of several different forms of value. You can also build a lightweight review process. Check every post for accuracy, confidentiality, clarity, and whether the main point appears early enough. Avoid requiring 10 approvals for a simple educational observation. The more complicated the process becomes, the more likely employees are to return to silence. Batching can help, but overbatching can remove spontaneity. Drafting a few ideas in advance creates consistency. Responding to current conversations keeps the content connected to what the market is actually discussing. The 10th and most important strategy is to measure thought leadership by trust and business influence, not by vanity metrics alone. Likes and comments are visible, but they are incomplete. Metricool's 2026 study found that traditional public interactions such as likes, comments, and shares declined year over year in its dataset, while overall engagement increased by nearly 14% because clicks, carousel swipes, video views, and other less visible interactions grew. This is a useful reminder that public applause does not represent every form of interest. A post with fewer comments may still generate profile visits, saves, link clicks, direct messages, or private sharing. A post with many reactions may attract an audience that has no connection to your market. The strongest B2B brands in 2026 will not be the ones with the most polished company pages. They will be the ones whose people consistently help buyers understand what is changing, why it matters, what trade-offs exist, and how to make a better decision. Ultimately, the LinkedIn Thought Leadership Blueprint for B2B founders and SaaS teams comes down to this. Use the company page to establish the official presence, but use real people to create the relationship. Build authority by explaining what you believe. Build trust by showing what you have experienced. Build demand by connecting those lessons to real customer problems. Build the shadow funnel by educating the people who are researching quietly. Build team participation by giving employees room to speak from their own expertise. And build a predictable sales channel by measuring influence across the entire buying journey, not just the final form submission. Do not try to sound like a company. Sound like a knowledgeable person who has spent enough time with the problem to offer something useful. A logo can communicate existence. A person can communicate judgment. And when your founder and team consistently demonstrate that judgment in public, LinkedIn stops being just a networking website. It becomes a living record of how your company thinks. It becomes a place where future customers can discover your expertise before they are ready to speak with sales. It becomes a way to reach hidden buyers, support internal champions, and create familiarity long before a formal buying process begins. That is how thought leadership becomes a growth engine. Not because every post goes viral, not because every employee becomes an influencer, and not because personal content eliminates the need for marketing fundamentals. It works because the market starts to recognize the people behind the product, remember the ideas they share, and associate the company with a clearer way of solving important problems. And with that, we've reached the end of today's video. I hope you found this information valuable and learned something that can help you build a stronger LinkedIn thought leadership system for your SaaS business or B2B team in 2026. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos. We'd also love to hear your thoughts, questions, or experiences in the comments below. Are you currently using founder-led content to grow your business? Which type of LinkedIn post has created the most meaningful conversations for your team? Let us know what has worked, what has not, and what you would recommend to other founders and marketers. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of our growing community. Take care, stay motivated, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.